Pinot Noir is a cool climate grape everywhere in the world. And in California, identifying and finding those cool climate spots has been hypercritical for the overall quality. With Pinot Noir, it's always a wise idea to follow the coast. It's very rare that you find inland Pinot Noirs that truly express the cool climate varietal character. What you will notice, however, are changes as you move from the north down to the south. Once again, we start up in the true Sonoma Coast, in the far part of the Sonoma Coast appellation, where literally certain vineyards are within spitting distance of the water. Here, because it's a cooler climate, the size of the harvest will vary from year to year, but what you'll always have is bright, crunchy acidity levels, screaming red fruit, Bing cherries, sour cherries, and always a note of the local sort of salinity, or almost that sort of pine tree-like conifer character that you get because of where you are. As you move further south into the Russian River, not only will you continue that along the coast, but as you follow the Russian River up eastward towards Healdsburg, it gets a little bit more warmer climated. Here there's an area called the Middle Reach, just outside of Healdsburg proper, where those plush, round, rich, juicy Pinot Noirs. As you move further south, you'll first hit Santa Lucia Highlands in Monterey County for producing wines that are both more generous because of the warmer climate that they can get, but also moderated by the Pacific Ocean coming in from Monterey Bay. Finally, as you approach the far south and you get around Santa Barbara, San Ynez, and the Santa Rita Hills, once again, you actually reapproach that cool climate area that we talked about in the North Coast. Here, and again, like the North Coast, wines tend to be a little bit herbal, not quite as ripe, not quite as fruit generous as they would be in the middle reach of the Russian River. Other notable spots worth seeking out Pinot Noir would be Mendocino County, where Anderson Valley is really renowned. Flavors here tend to be riper fruit, but also wonderful leanness there. This is also a hallmark area for production of sparkling wines, of which Pinot Noir makes a big play. Next up, you would have the Santa Cruz Mountains. Now, this is an area that people perhaps think about maybe more for Cabernet or Chardonnay if you think about wineries like Ridge. But early on, wineries like Mount Eden Vineyards, wineries like David Bruce Winery helped put this area on the map. And there's a re-interest and a rekindling of areas around Santa Cruz Mountains for Pinot Noirs today. Cool climate Pinot Noirs are becoming increasingly the signature of California. And I picked one from Sonoma Coast and from the Fort Ross Seaview AVA, which sits in the very north part, as being, I think, very emblematic of the direction we're going today. Hirsch vineyards were amongst the first people up in this part of the world and really important in establishing Fort Ross Seaview as an AVA. Fort Ross Seaview wines to me are defined by their subtlety, their elegance, their not being over the top, and once again them having this sort of what I always refer to as sort of like a conifer, almost piney sort of element that's there that supports this beautiful red fruit. Once again, you'll get just a little bit of minerality, terroir, and almost a hint of salinity because of the proximity of the ocean that's always apparent, and because the fruit doesn't get quite as ripe, the bigger fruit character doesn't dominate or overwhelm the wines. The wines from this part of the world are always subtle, always elegant, always nuanced. In this wine, I find pomegranate, I find sour cherry, I find a little bit of cranberry, and just a little bit of fraise de bois, that sort of small French strawberry character that you get. This wine has a wonderful backbone. It has a bright acidity, very refreshing, very tart in a good way, and the tannin structure here is present, but not overly so, not astringent. The wine has a very approachable nature to it. It's extremely well balanced. It will age quite well, and I think it speaks volumes to what is happening in cool climate Pinot Noir today in California. If you cannot find this particular wine from Hirsch, their San Andreas Cuvée, I would encourage you to find another wine from this part of the world in the Sonoma Coast, but you could also substitute easily going into Carneros. You could substitute the cooler areas of the Russian River, or once again, you could go further south down into Santa Rita Hills or Santa Barbara to find wines that are signature, more akin to this style.